gave me medicine, and I think it's all draining down. So I'm glad to see the box of Kleenexes right here.
We've all had it for about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. You've been here most days, so I think you know how we do this. Go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true and accurate?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Jorde?
Yes, thank you. Will you please state your name?
Katherine Stockdale. I go by Kathy.
And Ms. Stockdale, do you and your husband, through a couple of trusts, own land in Hardin County?
We do.
And do you own 6 parcels, 6 separate distinct parcels that are being targeted by the proposed Summit Carbon Hazardous Pipeline?
In the last KMZ, that's what it says. We've had different amounts, different times. Our first notification said that we had 7 parcels. I have had contacts through the IUB and Mr. Leonard where it was listed as 4 parcels at different times with different numbers, but on the last KMZ it does say 6 parcels.
Okay, very good. And is it correct that you and your family caused to be prepared in this matter pre-filed testimony, question and answer format, and then included various attachments and exhibits?
We did. I will say that it was hard to limit it in the short amount of time that we had to prepare our pre-trial testimony. After 2 years of a lot of work and research and 100 years of farming on our farm, it was very difficult to complete in the time frame. I spent at least 2 weeks, and 2 of those days I worked from 8 in the morning till 12:30 at night trying to get it done in time.
Okay, and you're referencing working out the answers and then gathering the supporting documentation?
Yes.
And if we were to walk through, ma'am, those questions and answers in your pre-filed testimony, would the answers here today be substantially the same as the ones found in that written testimony?
They are, but I do have some additions or corrections up there.
Okay, go ahead with the corrections.
Okay, if we could bring up the KMZ, it's actually a correction on the Summit, on the parcels. They left out a piece of one of our sections that they're going through. Okay, if you go to the southeast corner, I think they call that 0340. If you see, you can see the railroad tracks that goes through there. And if you go just south, in the southeast corner of that railroad tracks right there, there's a 1 acre triangle. That is also part of our section. If you can see it right there, right in there. That's a 1 acre triangle that is also part of our section.
Oh, okay. And you were referencing some land immediately south of the railroad on the eastern, near the eastern boundary of your property?
Yeah, the southeast, very southeast corner, and you go south across the railroad tracks, right along, it's called Q Avenue, and it's just a triangle shape right there. You can vaguely see the angle of it.
Okay, but just to be clear, the proposed pipeline route in white that is south of the railroad tracks, that is not directly on any land you own, is that?
It is not.
Okay, very good.
But while we have this up, I reference in our pretrial testimony that we had bought some new land that we have since put up a grain bin. That new land is just to the east of that triangle. It's the 67 acres just east of it.
Okay.
In the brown.
What we're seeing on the KMZ map right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That brown piece over there is what we just bought in December.
I see.
So that's what we bought, and that's why we had to put up a new grain bin.
Okay, very good. But just to be clear, that new land adjacent to your existing property is not directly impacted by the proposed route?
Not by Summit, no.
Okay, all right, very good.
I also have one other correction. Since that, on August 18th, our son purchased land And so he purchased 130 acres just north on the Q Avenue. And so we will have to be building another grain bin. So if you bring up, it's on 0345 where our homestead is. And it shows where our grain bin setup is. If we could zoom in on that. That one right there. And I'm trying to see how many, I think that picture actually only has the 2 grain bins. So since then, we have built one more to the south, and now we will be building another one to the south.
Okay, so again, the correction there would be because we're looking at a map that isn't up to date with what actually exists, you are continuing to develop grain bins south, which would be closer to the proposed route.
Yes.
All right, and do you anticipate keep going that direction essentially?
In that area, yes. It will basically be up to our son. He is the one who will be farming it, or is farming most of it at this time.
All right, did you have any other corrections that are material to your testimony?
Could you zoom in on the southwest corner? I was just trying to see, since this is an older map, I wanted to make sure our son's house was also on there. Okay, it is there.
All right. And your pre-filed testimony and exhibits, I'd like to offer those, and those are landowner exhibits 257 through 279, and also 302.
I believe there was
Just hold on one second. Okay. Let's do that first.
Are there objections?
I have no objection.
I had a 264 with my title match. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sit tight for a minute. We'll put one plenty of time. Go ahead, Mr.
I have no objections to those exhibits. As the witness said, I do think there's a 264 as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Seeing no objections, the board will admit and give it the weight to.
Oh, and I did forget to add one other one. I'm sorry. It's the reason I'm here. It's our Century Farm picture. I forgot to add that. I don't know how I missed that.
Mr. Jorde.
Yeah.
Okay,
sorry.
Let's just slow down. Okay. So we've got 257 through 279, ma'am, and just so that you're aware, that covers attachments through 73 and your pre-filed testimony, okay? And then we've also got into evidence 302, which is additional information that you wanted uploaded, okay?
Yes.
Okay. And then now you state you've brought an additional piece of information, which I think was a photograph of must be your family.
Yes. In fact, I couldn't believe it when I was going through all my stuff. I was trying to find the picture, and I'm like, where is our Century Farm picture? So I would like to add our Century Farm picture. We received it last year at the Iowa State Fair on my son's birthday.
Okay, so you would like to have that made a hearing exhibit?
I would.
Okay.
That's why I'm here today.
Understood.
Or part of the reason.
So maybe we can get that done, but we can probably keep moving if you're okay with that. All right. So once that's made an exhibit, I suppose I will offer that. But in order to kind of keep moving along, ma'am, now that those exhibits are in evidence, I'm going to tender you for a cross-examination. Okay.
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 Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. So let's put the KMZ map back up there. I guess that'd be a good place to start this time. You had said that there was some discrepancy in the number of parcels.
Okay.
Does this map appear to be correct then?
I believe it is. I mean, on most of the maps, what they have left out is they classified 0346 and 0345 as the same parcel. And at one time they were going through 4-2, I believe. That they've kind of moved the pipeline there in the middle, I've noticed. So, yeah.
So this is a different route than what you originally had been told?
It's pretty close to the same. It's a little farther north than I believe than our original. I do have, I think it's an exhibit. I'd have to find it. It's in a response to the IUB from Mr. Leonard, where he said that they were going through 4 parcels. I believe on mine I have it as exhibits 45 and 46. There is a picture where they show it going through and the 4 parcel numbers that they are going through.
Okay. Did you discuss with any Summit land agents or representatives about the route?
I have at different meetings, and I've also addressed it in IUB hearings. I did file, I should back up and say that we are a landowner who is affected by both Summit and Navigator. So I had questions about the safety of them, because if you look in our southeast corner where it's coming from our farm and is going under the railroad tracks, underneath on that other side is where Navigator is coming across along the railroad tracks, and so they will both be crossing about where the pipeline turns in that point. So I asked them questions specifically about the safety of having those 2 pipelines on top of each other and crossing. Mr. Leonard wrote back an email right away when I posted it to the IUB docket, and he said, could we get together and talk? And I've had enough experiences with Summit that I said, I don't want to sit and talk, but I would like it in writing, how this would work. And I never received another response.
Okay. What discussions have you had over the past 2 years or so with Summit land agents or representatives?
Well, I made a list of the different land agents that they say I've talked to, or that I think I've talked to. I think they list Miss Agent Whippel. I don't quite remember him. I do remember Mr. Costello. He was from Oklahoma, and we had quite a conversation of, he said in Oklahoma that they welcome pipelines because their economy is so low and they have nothing for income, so they're welcome to have pipelines come through. But when I explained to him of our farmland and the tile and the rich soil, he seemed surprised and could understand that. Mr. Costello also, I believe he's the one that dropped off our first easement agreement and offer. And the first time he came, he brought it, and it was duplicates of the same parcels. And so he came a day or 2 later and says, well, I made a mistake, and he'd forgotten a couple of those parcels, so he dropped that off. He also, in March of 2022, stopped by, I think it was March 10th, and were asked if we were coming to the meeting that Summit was going to be having in Eldora the next day. And as we were talking, just visiting, I says, oh, by the way, did you see the no trespassing sign at the end of our driveway? And he got a scared look on his face. I said, don't worry about it, you're okay. But, and I would say that we went to that hearing the next day in Eldora. I was surprised when I saw the people leading it was Mitch Baums from Summit Ag, and it was Jimmy Powell and Jake Ketzner. My son happens to know Mitch Baum because my son has a metal fabrication business, and he makes gun targets as a side business. And he had worked with Mr. Baum for Bruce Rastetter and making some life-sized animals, because Mr. Rassetter likes to go on hunting trips, and so he made these life-sized targets for him, which I believe he was going to put out on his property also, and he told my son he could come down and see them anytime. So our son knew Mitch Baum, and in the January before that, Mitch had actually called our son because he knew him, and he says, "Do you know why your family doesn't want this pipeline on your land?" And I put that into the docket and said, "I do not want Mitch Baum calling my son. This is our land." And our son said, I can't answer for them. It's in their names. So I was surprised when he was at this meeting in Eldora. And we had a lot of discussions and questions on that one, on the pipeline at that meeting, talking about tile lines, talking easements, talking, I have recordings of parts of the meetings that.
So what was the general tenor of that meeting?
Basically a lot of questions as to why, where, and they had land agents over along the side so that if you had questions you could go and ask.
Well, did you do that?
No, I did not.
Was it kind of a sales pitch by Summit?
Yes, very much so.
So when was the next time after that March meeting that the Summit held that you talked to?
I think our next land agent was, her last name was Fontaine. I'm trying to remember her first name. Rihanna. Because she left voicemail. We still have a landline. My husband likes to have a landline, so we do. And so she left a voicemail, and I couldn't understand her name the first 2 times she called. And then she called back, and I talked to her some. And then, since we have Navigator also going through our land, we had just gotten an easement offer from them. And so I just basically, when she called, I said, could we get a copy of that easement, of Summit's easement too, just for a comparison, as to what each one was offering. And she also quoted an offer over the phone to me. And so I said, well, I would like it in writing. I've learned that you get everything in writing. And we waited for over a month and did not get a copy of it from her. We'd gotten one from Navigator, but we still had not gotten it from her.
So up to that point, you had not gotten any written easement from Summit?
We'd had one before, but she had said, well, they were upping their offer, and so we wanted to see what that offer was. And so that was, the next contact was with her. After I was trying to think, it was actually, I think it was Mr. Paroli who actually finally sent us the map. The offer. And then it was only like a week or so later that we were out. My husband and son were out, I think, unloading beans from the bin, and I happened to be out there, and she and her supervisor drove in and wanted to talk to us about it. And so we just said, we're not interested. I mean,
did you ever talk to the land agents about alternative routes?
No. Well, I guess I did at the first meeting that they had. Well, to begin with, we'd gotten, okay, now I forgot how many original copies we got of the proposed pipeline. I mean, they were going through a lot of sections, and so when we went to the initial meeting, I had asked, I said, why don't you just go straight across? Or why are you going? To me, it did not make sense to cut. It was coming from Nevada and up to Eldora, or to Pine Lake. And then it was cutting all across the northern part of Hardin County, all of Franklin County, and half of Wright County for this pipeline. And I said, why don't you just follow like Highway 20 across? Or, And there was no response. This is what they were proposing.
So they never really tried to work with you on an alternative route?
No.
Okay.
No.
I've forgotten on the KMG map, were there any occupied structures close to the pipeline?
If you bring up the KMZ,
Yeah, can we do that?
actually, if you see how close our house is to it, we live in a house on the north side.
In that green square?
No, that's actually the neighbor right there.
Okay.
That one is ours.
Okay.
Our son lives on the other side, so the pipeline is going. No, the other. Yeah, there's actually people that live in that house also.
Okay.
So there's people in both of those houses. If you went down around the corner, there's also another house to the left. Yeah, see, there's other houses over there.
Yeah. So how close would the nearest emergency response personnel be?
We actually live halfway between Iowa Falls and Ackley. So generally it's Iowa Falls that would come. I know Ackley and Eldora have just joined their two departments together. So Iowa Falls is about 6 or 7 miles from town.
Okay. And that's a volunteer force?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a concern to you?
Of course.
Has Summit ever discussed with you the risk involved, the extent to which the CO2 would disperse if there were a rupture?
No, not personally. No, I've gone to meetings, but no, they have not told me. I have read a lot. I mean, when you ask about how many hours, some of the time constraint that we've said, I would guess that I probably do at least 40 hours a week that I've spent on this pipeline. It's hard to explain everything. I have concerns for my neighbors. I have concern for my county. I have actually written letters. I went through like Hardin County to see who the landowners were, trying as best as I could, and have written letters to all of those landowners several times to try to keep them informed as to what's going on, because they don't like to give out information. I have also done Franklin County, because we are only like a mile south of Franklin County. So I have also written letters to Franklin County landowners to just keep them informed as to things that are happening, because I have spent at least 40 hours every week on this. I mean, very easily. My husband will attest to it. It's been a full-time job.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. We were gonna break for lunch, dinner, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Do you have, is that all right, or would you like to just go? I'm being told that it's not optional, so.